Hello. I had at least one person, well, not at least one person, I had one person email and suggest a topic for a video in learning. Um, this individual suggested isomorphism, right? So, there in chapter 10, with the Gestalt approach to learning, um, they compare and contrast lots of things, right? With between the Gestalts and earlier approaches, different approaches in psychology. So they broached the topic towards the beginning of the chapter of basically the mind-body problem in in philosophy, and I guess mind-body problem is a problem other than in philosophy too, I suppose. And they mentioned that the behaviorists didn't attempt to deal with it; they just ignored the mind-body question. And of course, the mind-body is regarding basically the mind and the body, or physiology, biology. So, are these different things? Do they both exist or not? If they do exist, how do they interact with each other? All questions related to that. So the behaviorists just ignored that. Then they mentioned like the structuralists, right? The structuralists believed more in something that today we call, well, I guess they called it this at the time too, epiphenomenalism. Epiphenomenalism. They viewed the mind, the contents of thought, as a byproduct of processes of the body, and in particular the brain, right? So we have all these, we know nowadays, neurons, all this physiology taking place in the brain. That is where the action is at. And there is no subjective reality, there is no independent mind apart from those physiological processes in the brain, right? So the mind or thought is just a meaningless byproduct of the physiology in the brain. So anything we might experience as thought, free will, all of that is an illusion. It has no substance. It's just something we experience as a byproduct of the physiological processes of the brain. But the physiological processes are where the action's at, right? So the incoming sensations trigger activity in the brain, and that's all, right? There is no subjective thought involved at all. All subjective thought, all subjective experience is just a useless byproduct of the physiological processes of the brain. So that's epiphenomenalism, and the structuralists kind of took that approach, but the Gestalts completely disagreed with that, right? They believed in psychophysical isomorphism. Iso means the same, so psycho, the mind, physical, the body, physiological processes of the brain, isomorphism are the same thing. So basically, the sensations coming in to the brain are processed in the brain, and while they're being processed, that is both the physiological processes of the brain and my subjective experience at the same time. They're one and the same thing. Like my hands, one and the same thing. But anyway, right? So there is no distinction between the mind and body. There is no distinction between physiology and the brain and our subjective experience or our thought processes. They are all one and the same thing. Psychophysical isomorphism. That's what the Gestaltists believed. Ta-ta. Good luck.